Hello, welcome back to Highfell. Yet another little terrier experiment. So we've got this working on the 6-pin with the A Stay Alive in there, and that's all working lovely now via the Bluetooth app control. All good. But I did want to see if we can get some sound, and you've probably already guessed from the picture how we're going to do it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the sound in a trailing vehicle. So for this we're going to use this full brake four-wheeler, sort of thing that would be trundling along behind. And so for this, we're going to need to get some power up. So we're going to use some DCC Concepts spring gold pickups. So you can get these. This is what I've used for the power collection on the coach lighting sets. Now, bearing in mind that we've only got two wheels, so it's going to have to pick up basically from one polarity from one side and one from the other. We haven't got huge scope here, which is why we're going to use a Stay Alive, and I've got the chunky boy Hornby one. Going to pop that in there because we have got the space, that's no problem. And also I picked these up relatively inexpensively as well. So also the same with using the Next 18 sound decoder. At the end of the day, you can use whatever Bluetooth sound decoder you've got, but say these always seem to be the ones that are on offer, so I always stock up on these when I see the deals on them, because I don't want to commit to leaving this as a particular project. I'm going to use one of the Tramfabric adapter boards, which means I can put all the connections in on the back rather than hardwire into here. Obviously the Stay Alive and the speaker just plug into the sides. It's mainly the power pickup that we need to worry about on here. Now, you don't need to put a bridge rectifier or anything in, because we're just purely going to have power coming in, one from one outside, one pickup from the other side, wire in to these boards on here, and we have the map of what pins do what. You'll notice I've put this little half moon on there for orientation, and the reason for that is you can obviously put your Next 18 decoder in either way, which is fine, but in some applications it has to go in a particular way. So I've done myself a little map so that I know with that little gold semicircle at the top, the pin which is the other side, if I turn it around this way, so this pin here with the two little dots in the top corner, that's your motor positive, that's your pin 1, and then you've got all the other ones shown there. So the ones we're going to be going into, soldering into, is track left and then track right. So you've got two identical options here. So in this instance, it's not going to really matter, but your track left is on either these two and your track right is either those two. And that's dead easy to solder to. Other thing we're going to need is a speaker, and I'm using an enclosure because again we've got the space. This is one that had been in something else and I removed, so I'll show you how you can reuse these. I've shortened the wire down because it was for, like I say, a different thing, but it's actually an advantage having it with a shorter wire. So the next thing to do is to open up the coach. I shall move out the coaster of magicness, and basically all you need to do is get your fingernail into there and that pops out. This one I've already removed the floor. Some of them it's glued in, some it isn't. It's only very, very light. You can just twist the chassis a little bit and that usually cracks off the glue. So it's all going to go in there. Let's quick look. We can get that in there definitely. We'll be able to get this in, and we'll be able to have that in, and then some pickups. I think so. It should all go in quite nicely, and with it being the full brake one, should be pretty much hidden from view. You could arrange it so that if anybody did look in, it looks like there's a bit of a load in there of some sort. Right, so we shall start by putting the contacts onto the wheels. So easy way to get the wheel off nice and squarely, if you just pop it into the back. Looks like a set of pliers, but it also works as a gauging tool for TT120, and then just squeeze that in the middle there, pulls it off, and it means you don't stab yourself on the little pinpoint bearings. Just worth noticing. Just look at the moulded detail in that wheel. They really do make a fantastic job with these models. Okay, so we're going to do the other one as well. So just pop that in, and off it goes. One of these wheels has got a plastic insert. Usually it's the one that pops off, and then the other one is attached into the actual steel section of the wheel. So that's the one that we're going to pick up from. What we're going to do, we'll just open the packet. So this is the little beastie we're going to use. These are made from, I think it's plated gold, so you get really good contact, and I just do it so that the little tail runs up against the back of the wheel as well. Just gives you that extra bit of contact. When you think about it, whenever the wheel rotates, it's always going to be in contact with somewhere along that spring. So these don't need to be desperately tight. I think it's the 1.5mm. It's the ones that the advertisers for the N scale stuff. Right, what I'm going to do is use my pliers to set the gauge, because I know that these are correct. Just make that level, and then all you need to do is push down. When you put the pliers in there, don't squash them so that you crush this, and you want to just be aware that you don't have it sitting on the, you need to leave a gap where the little plastic bushing is there, otherwise it's going to make it too wide a gauge. So just to show one more time, all fingers and thumbs now. Take the wheel, pop it on, get it square, and on it goes. Do be gentle with these contacts because they're quite easy to bend, and if you get any distortion on them, they can start to drag in there, but it is a pretty straightforward thing. And the next one thing we're going to do is we're going to pop the tail off the spring through the hole in the underframe, so it pops up like that. So I've got one on one side, and then we're going to flip it so that it's the exact opposite on the other side. So it's picking up for opposite rails. Clicks in there, clicks in there, check everything's free, lovely. So now we are ready to solder some wires to there. We're going to have a quick look. Now we're probably going to have to put a little bit of either a notch or a hole through the floor so we can just bring those wires up. We'll go for a notch because then you can remove it without having to feed the wires through the floor. So if you are ever taking anything apart, you don't need to start unsoldering, you can just pop that out. Right, I'm using a speaker that's been fitted before, so I'm just going to reuse this. It's important whenever you use these little sugar cube speakers that this surface here is completely airtight, so you have to seal it with something. Now you can, when places where you haven't got a lot of room, you can just put a piece of flat perspex or any kind of plastic, things like that, on there, as long as it's sealed down. When these are brand new, that glue is going to be super sticky. You take the little white backing off and pop it on, but as you can see, it ain't no sticky anymore. So to recreate that and get the airtight seal that I want, I'm going to use one of my favorite products, glue and glaze. This is so useful because it's slightly flexible when it's, and it has a kind of almost like a gel-like quality to it. Even when it's dried, it makes a great seal for repairing the air seal on these speakers. You can see I'm using everything up from that's been kicking around. Carefully pop it on here. Don't get it on the diaphragm of the speaker. That's that little black section there. That's the bit that vibrates up and down. and basically that acts as an echo chamber. I'll pop that over there, and then whilst I'm doing the rest of the job, that can be setting. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look at is putting some wires to the two pickups that are popping up there. And I said we're going to put a notch in the side of the floor. Okay, there we go. All I've done is put a little notch here. I've set it aside from where the clips are. I'm going to bring both wires up on the same side. There's no need to separate them one on either side. And all I've done, little slice in, a couple of angled slices, and just clear out. It's dead easy with a sharp knife. The other thing I'm going to do is, you'll notice there's a weight here, which is made of a metallic material. So I'm going to take a little bit of Captain Tape, and I'm going to pop that over to ensure that my track pickups can't touch it. Just needs to be carefully positioned so you don't catch the wheels. It'd be easy with a camera in the way, I know, but here we go. Make sure that springs out of the way. Don't want to cut that with the scissors. There we are. It's a little bit short, so I shall cut a piece and add it from the other end. Yep. All good. This is the wire I'm going to use. Super thin. It's quite good quality. It's not very expensive. A couple of rolls of this. It's all black. I really only sort of use it for lighting. You can get all different colours, things like that, which is probably a good idea if you start to do more complex wiring bits, so you can make sure you know what wire's going where. So I'll just cut this to some short lengths, expose the metal interior, the core, and tin it, and then we'll solder the two springs and then to the pickup board, or rather the adapter board. And remembering, actually in this instance, the only connections we're using are the track right and left, so we don't need to really worry too much which ones they are. They're just the inner ones on this middle row, so the outer ones on the inner row. Get that row around. Okay, we'll get that done. There we go. Apologies for doing it off camera, but eyes are a bit tired this morning, so it's just easier doing it without having to peer over the phone. Okay, so I've also just used another little bit of Captain Tape because I had it, just to hold the spring down, just to really stop it, so that when it changes direction, the floor is going to stop it from flapping about anyway, but I've just done it because it was easier. Two little lengths of wire. Little tip: if you're ever cutting things like wires down from LEDs, because they often now come pre-wired with things, keep your wire. It's dead useful, particularly for little projects like this, and you don't really need huge lengths of it either. Then I tinned the back of the adapter and tinned the wires, as I say, and pop that on, and we are good to go. So the floor has gone back down. What I have used is a little bit of black tack each end, because where I've put the contact in, it's just raised the floor that little bit. You can probably see it's got a little bit of a raise on it, but that's not really a problem because we've got plenty of clearance up to the roof. And I've also secured the adapter with a little bit of black tack just from the back, just to hold it in place. Then the next thing we need to do is plug in a Stay Alive and the speaker. Have a quick look, see how the speaker's doing. Yeah, that's started to go clear, which is the sign that it's gone off. And we've got a nice, got a nice line all the way around, so that's going to be a good seal. Leave that for a few minutes longer. So I think this is time for a cup of tea, and then we'll plug all the bits and pieces in, pop it on the track without the body, and see if we can actually link up this decoder and get some sound, and whether these two single contacts on each wheel are going to be enough. Righty-ho, so just using some blue tack to hold all the components in place, and just keep the wires back as well. So I haven't cut the wires for the Stay Alive Just they're quite long in this application, but it's one less thing to do. Speaker is all cured around there, so that should be fine. I say all the bits and pieces just held with blue tack, so easily removable if they need to be. As much as anything, it's just to keep it in place whilst you try and sort of shoehorn the coach body on, which shouldn't be too problem because you just don't want to get wire trapped. Once it's set in place, actually those wires will probably just pick up. So that's all you've got to see underneath. Wheels all run nicely, and then the next thing to do is to drop a profile in. So there isn't a Terrier profile available for HM DCC. For some reason I got into my head there was, and this is why I should never trust AI, because according to AI on Google there is one as well, but there ain't. So I've put in a J36 profile. It did seem to take an awful lot of time. Anyway, we'll bob this on the layout and we'll see how it all looks and sounds. Well, here we are. Terrier, sound, what more could you want? So by putting the two decoders, one to run the loco in the actual loco and the second one in the coach behind, then running them as a consist, basically you have got sound with it. Okay, it's not ideal because the fact that you have got the sound in another vehicle. However, it is practical because if you want to just run the loco on its own, you don't have to always run with that particular piece of rolling stock. We'll see how it goes. You can consist quite easily either via the app. You can also set up what's really a traditional type of consist. I can't remember what the name of it is now, which is where you can alter various CV values. We just pop the phone out and you can set it up that way. And some controllers, that's regular DCC controllers as well, have got their own way of basically shortcutting that consist. I know on my Bachmann Dynamis, it's got a really brilliant consist setup. And there we go. This is probably at the moment looking like the most cost-efficient way of setting up and having HM DCC. I can't think of another way of actually combining everything. There just isn't the space, and unless Hornby come out with an absolutely miniature sound decoder that works and all the rest of it, I think this is possibly the way to go. And cost-wise, I think you're talking about £65 worth of bits and pieces in there, so it's not going to break the bank. The idea of running two decoders might seem at first quite extravagant, but I don't think many people have said much in relation to doing the same on, say, an HST or something like that. So all in all, I personally, I think this is sort of a reasonable way to go with it. There's some clattering, some points in the background. There's something magical about the sound, actually, particularly with these small locos. So thank you very much for watching. Hope it's given you food for thought, and please get involved in the comments. So if you've got any other ideas, then share them with everybody. But for me, on the Terrier project, I think at the moment that's it. Might just look and see whether we can put some smaller caps in there. So somebody did ask that. Have a look at that and see what's possible. And if it's doable, I'll come back and show you another way. So for now, thank you very much for watching. Do take care, and above all, happy modelling.